Listen, my friend, you're already racking up debt and you're buying junk. Before I start talking about some of my biggest regrets, I want to mention very quickly, I have been given another Farfetch coupon code, but I only have it for 1 month. It works for men and it works for women, and it works on designer goods on farfetch.com. It's not affiliate paying, this is not an ad. They gave me it a couple of weeks ago now, and I figured it's probably quite handy to keep sharing it with you until it expires, and it expires at the end of February. You have to use it from a new account though, so if you're already a Farfetch customer, you'll need to create a new account in order to get that coupon code to work, but it's a very handy discount. I was talking to one of you the other day on email. I do that a lot. I've got a lot of you who write to me and have been writing for years, and I love talking with you and just having general conversations. And I was talking to one of you, specifically we were discussing university, because you were asking what course you should do, what degree you should study, and you asked me whether I regret going. And the reason why you asked that is because, and I've spoken to you about it before, I got into so much debt at university, a scary amount of debt at university. I think at its highest it was £40,000, and that was a combination of tuition fees, all of the books you have to buy, things like you have these books each term or each semester or whatever, and they could be £100 plus for a book, and you can't even buy books off people in the previous semester because their books are out of date. It's like they do it on purpose, and you can spend a fortune just on books that you're going to use for 1 semester. How crazy is that? But anyway, we were discussing it, and I said to you, you know, this is a really great idea actually for a video of my biggest regrets. And I do have some fashion regrets, but actually most of the stuff in this video is to do with life regrets, things I've done with my life, and I look back and I think, oh, I wish I didn't do that. And I'm lucky because, to be fair, there are not many things that I regret doing. Most of the things that I do, I'm someone who thinks long and hard before I do things, whether it's buying something or whether it's doing a big drastic life change. And so from that point of view, there's not many things that I regret doing, but they exist. And actually, most of the things I regret doing, I made those decisions when I was in my early 20s, before I really thought long and hard about the future. I think the older you get, the more you think about consequences in the future, whereas when I was that age, I didn't think about anything except today. Let's start with university. Do I regret it? So I got into loads of debt, but I don't regret it. If you asked me whether I regret it 15 years ago, I might tell you a different thing, only because I was trying to pay off this massive debt, and it took me around about 8 years to pay off the debt. It took a long time. It was not quick at all. And if you asked me back then, once all of the partying had finished at university, once all of the university shopping trips had ended, once I graduated and I never, you know, didn't get to see those people again very easily because everyone lives in different places, I probably would have told you something else. But now that I've paid off the debt, university for me was the best thing that I ever did, because I would not have got the jobs that I have had over the years if it wasn't for the degree that I had. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, on one hand, you get in quite a lot of debt, depending on how you manage it. But then on the other hand, if you want to work in the professional, like in a professional setting, whether it's like I do marketing, whether it's like business kind of stuff like marketing, or whether it's science type things like being a doctor or a vet or a dentist, or you want to be a lawyer or things like that, then those obviously require a degree, and so it is a difficult one. But I would recommend it unless you're going to go into a sector where you don't really need a degree and you can get through on experience. And experience, in many ways, it's worth more than the degree. Honestly, when I think about it, yeah, I do reflect back on my degree from time to time, but really it's the experience that gets me through. So anyway, that's something to think of. The next massive thing that I regret to a point where sometimes when I'm going to bed at night, just at that point before you fall asleep, you know, does anyone get that thing where you're going to bed at night and just as you're about to fall asleep, every embarrassing thing you've ever done in your whole life flashes before your eyes and makes you cringe and wakes you up? And then you're trying to get back to sleep again, and all you can think about is that embarrassing thing you said 8 years ago, and probably nobody else remembers it except you, but it's embarrassing. I get that, but I also get it with a BMW that I bought when I was at university. You heard it right. I was at university, I'd just come out of sixth form, and I had a car at the time, but it wasn't a good car. I mean, not many people have a good car first time round, but my car kept breaking down. It was not reliable at all. And I wanted a new car as well, you know, to be honest. And I went to this BMW dealership with a friend of mine. And there was this car there, and it was a demo car. So it was owned by the dealership. It hadn't been owned by anyone else before. And they were like, oh, if you want, you know, a car, we can do you a good deal. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. And they were like, well, you don't need any, we'll put it on finance. And I was like, wow, you can do that? Anyway, I decided to go through with it. And can I just say, I don't know how I got through the finance credit checks, because I'm at university, I have no job, no income. And I was already getting myself into debt, and the car was just more debt that was being added onto it. But the credit went through. How does this happen? So irresponsible of the banks to do that. And I wish it didn't go through. I wish I never got the credit, because then I wouldn't have ended up with a car that, whilst I loved it, you know, I'm a car person, I'm a car girl. So cars for me, even going all the way back to when I was a kid, I wanted nice cars. I had this car that I couldn't afford. My next regret, moving on to a fashion item before I talk about some more life stuff, but it's this bag from Goyard. I regret buying this so much. I wish I didn't buy it. It's not a bag that I reach for. I've spoken to you about it before. It's just, it feels flimsy. It feels cheap. The monogram is all hand painted on, and mine's kind of starting to wear off and chip off in places, which makes me not want to use it even more because I don't want to ruin it. And this bag was just nearly £2,000. And I bought it, and I never do this, but I bought it in the excitement of the moment. Normally I will go and look at a bag and I will think about it. Like the Dior 9522 bag, I did not buy that on the same day. I went to look at it, and I will continue to think about it. And if in a couple of months' time I'm still thinking about it, then I will think about buying it. But I'm not someone who rushes in, but I rushed in with this, and it was because the salesperson, and I never fall for this, but the salesperson was like, in order to see this bag, I had to go into a secret private room that was behind, that had a curtain that was drawn across it before the bag was shown to me. And there was this story about how they're so rare, that maybe they are, that it's rare, and that she couldn't show me the bag on the shop floor because then everyone was going to want it, and there was only one in stock. I never fall for that one in stock thing, but I fell for it on the day. I was like, oh my god, okay, I have to have it if it's that in demand, you know, maybe this is a true investment. This is not an investment bag, and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't, you know, I don't like selling online because that's risky, but I know if I were to sell it to Luxury Promise, I wouldn't get back half of what I paid for it, because I know that if they tried to sell it, they wouldn't get much either. So that's a regret there. And then the final thing, my final biggest regret, and this is a true regret, actual true regret, this one, is I regret, when I was at university, I regret all of the shopping sprees that I used to go on with my friends. And I regret it because I have nothing to show for it. And all it did was rack up debt. And I would buy stuff. And it's not like, at least now, you know, when I buy something most of the time that's got an intrinsic value. And if I need to get my money back out of it, I can go and sell it, you know. But back then, I didn't think like that. if there was a sort of, you know, a dress that I was planning on wearing for one night to a party and it was £20, I'd just buy it. But I didn't buy big investment items because I thought in my head, oh, I'll rack up debt doing that. Listen, my friend, you're already racking up debt and you're buying junk, things that you aren't, you're going to end up giving them to a charity shop because you won't wear them again. They're not good quality, etc. You know, all these different things. And so I do regret the big shopping sprees that we used to go on. And it wasn't just me, it was all of my friends. From the day I met people at first year in uni, we would go out in the day, we'd buy an outfit for a party that evening, and we go and do the same thing the next day. And that's the story of my life when it comes to, you know, my university debt. It's all of it. It's the tuition fees, it's the books, it's the shopping, it's the nightlife, it's all of it really. And I did try and get a job, and I did have a job in third year, but it made it difficult because, you know, when you're trying to study, and even if you're doing part-time work, sometimes your employer, depending on your employer, they don't care whether you've got a lecture or an exam to sit. If they need you at a certain time in the day, they need you at that time in the day. And that's kind of what happened, although I did have this job in third year. And I was lucky for that job because when I graduated, I couldn't get work anywhere, and that job I stayed in. They took me on full time after I graduated, and so from that point of view, I was kind of quite lucky. Please can you leave below in the comments, do it anonymously if you wish, leave below in the comments your biggest life regrets. Things you did or did not do. Leave them in the comments, and remember what I say. When it comes to regrets, if there are things in your life and those regrets are eating you up, even years later, try your hardest not to regret, because you did what you did at the time for the right reason, for a reason that was valid back then. Just because your situation in the future has changed and you look back and you'd have done things differently now, back then you're not the person that you are now. So when it comes to regret, really try and manage that. I don't let it bother me too much. I mean, I'm really lucky because I managed to pay off the debt in the end, so any regret that I harboured about university died as soon as I paid off the debt. And I realised, you know, I wouldn't have got the jobs that I've got if it wasn't for the degree that I ended up doing. So it paid for itself in the end, and it can take years to pay itself back, but it normally does, depending on the degree that you get and whether it actually is related to the job that you end up doing later on. But that's a whole other separate video. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.